So how to solve quadratic word problems given equations in vertex form, and we've done this example before in another two videos, and we're going to do two more questions on it. The question is, a rocket is launched from a platform. Its height in meters, x seconds after the launch, is modeled by h of x equals -4 times quantity x minus 4 squared plus 100. Answer the problems using this function. The first question is, how high is the rocket 2 seconds after launch? How high is the rocket 2 seconds after launch? So the first thing is, anytime you have a problem on a quadratic equation, probably there's a number in there. So you have to find that number. Well, here it's explicitly there, so that's not too bad. It's right there, 2 seconds. And then the next thing is you have to figure out, does that 2 seconds apply to the time, or to the x value or the y value, okay? So you should have marked up, which we did in a previous video, what the x stands for and what the y stands for. And that's going to be very helpful in all of your questions. So I'm going to repeat that. So up here it says that x seconds, so x represents seconds, that's the unit, and it represents time. And then here it says its height is x seconds after the launch is modeled by this. So the height is going to be the y value. I know this because, first of all, x represents the time, so that means that the height has to be the other variable, which is just going to be y. And I also know it because it says that the height is modeled by this function. So whatever unit is modeled by the function, that's always going to be the y. So whatever's modeled by the function, whatever's represented by the function, that's always going to be the y value. Okay. All right. So the key word here was seconds, so that tells me right away that it's going to be the x because the x represents seconds. So that means whatever this number is, I'm just going to plug it into x. So I'm going to take this equation, h of x, and I'm going to plug in 2. So -4 times quantity 2 minus 4 quantity squared plus 100. And I'm just going to simplify that and get an answer. So 2 minus 4 is -2. And you can pause the video and do this on your own, and then check back. And then -2 squared, you square the negative sign and the 2, you get a +4. -4 times 4 is -16. -16 plus 100 is 84. So the y value of the function h of x is 84 at 2 seconds. So the answer is going to be 84 meters. All right, the next question is, after how many seconds will the rocket be 64 meters high? So let's go ahead and move this up. And again, our question is, in any question, there's probably going to be a number in there, and there is here at 64. And so you have to know whether to plug it in for x or y. And because it says the word meters, and we already marked here that the y value represents meters, we're going to plug this in for the y value in this equation. So that means that 64 equals -4 times quantity x minus 4 squared plus 100. And then we're just going to solve for x, and that's going to be the number of seconds to hit that height. All right, so to solve a quadratic equation, in the previous video we talked about the fact that there's 4 ways to do that. So I'm going to move this all the way up here. We can either set the equation equal to 0, simplify, and then factor, so basically factoring. We can use the quadratic formula, we can use complete the square, or we can graph. Because I've already used the factoring method, I'm going to go ahead and use the complete the square method this time, okay? Just so you see a different example. So complete the square method. Also, the same thing as square rooting. Complete the square or square rooting method. Okay. So to do that, the square rooting method, the first thing you need to do is get not to get it equal to 0, that's factoring, okay? You have to get the factor that's the perfect square by itself. So I need to get this by itself right here. So that means I'm going to have to get rid of this plus 100. So the first thing is you're going to get rid of whatever's added or subtracted outside of the parentheses. So I'm going to subtract this 100 to get rid of it. 64 minus 100 is -36. I'm still trying to get this by itself, so it's -4 times x minus 4 squared. So we have to get rid of a -4 times. Remember that to get rid of times -4, we have to do the opposite operation, same number. So the opposite of times is dividing, so we're going to divide by -4 and divide by -4. That cancels that out. -36 divided by -4 is 9. The next thing is that we're going to square root both sides. And whenever you square root both sides, you have to know that almost everything has two square roots, a positive one and a negative one. So you have to write both. The next thing you're going to do is just square root 9, which is 3. So then positive 3 equals x minus 4, because the square root and the square side cancel out. And -3 equals x minus 4. Add 4 to both sides, and x equals 7. Add 4 to both sides, and x equals 1. Notice that the answer is not 7 and -7, so you actually have to solve them separately. All right, so the answer is x equals 7 and x equals 1. I'm going to just go back and check on the question, because I have two answers, so I want to make sure that that works. It says, after how many seconds will the rocket be 64 meters high? Well, for this one, it's not clear whether they're asking whether it's returning or whether it's leaving. So I'm going to write both answers because it doesn't say when it's returning. So it's going to be at a height of 64 meters when it's going up. After 1 second, it'll hit 64. And when it's going back down, it will hit that height again at 7 seconds. So I'm going to show you that graphically in a second, but let me just write that there's two answers. So it hits the height of 64 twice, once at 1 second, once at 7 seconds. So we drew this graph in a previous video of this equation. So what's happening is the rocket is being launched. So at 0 seconds, it's at this height already because it's on a platform. Then it goes up, and after 1 second, it's a little higher. And then they're asking when does it hit a height of 64? So after 1 second, it is up here, which it should be 64. That's what's happening. Well, but then it keeps going up, it keeps going up, it keeps going up all the way to the vertex at a height of 100, and then it falls back down, which means it's going to hit this height of 64 again. So if I go back down and go back down, then at 7 seconds, it hits that same height of 64 again. So this is at a height, y value of 64, and then it hits a height of 64 again. So it hits most heights twice, basically. And that's why you have two answers.